Said this many of times before. You wonder, do you know who lived in your house prior? This is the childhood home of Bernie Madoff. Located in Laurelton, New York, 13954 228th Street, directly ahead again. The house of Bernie Madoff. And I'm sure you know about Bernie Madoff. It's a long story for a long video. But Bernie Madoff's great-grandfather, Burl, he immigrated to America in 1908 from Poland with his 7 children and wife with the trade of being a tailor. He immediately changed his name to Barnett Madoff and settled in Scranton, Pennsylvania, as we're going through Laurelton now to see how Laurelton presently looks, the neighborhood where Bernie grew up. One of his sons, David, had a boy named Ralph, who married in 1932 and moved to 1033 Belmont Avenue in Brooklyn. 3 children were born: Sandra, Bernard, and Peter. The 1940 census records show that Ralph's occupation as credit man wholesale jewelry. He must have done well as he moved out to Queens, purchasing a new home right after the war ended at 13954 228th Street in the predominantly back then Jewish community of Laurelton. Bernie, the middle child, he lived in this house, which is 1,000 square feet, along with 2 other siblings. And you could say that this is where the foundations of his childhood and social experiences were built, out here in Laurelton. Now, the neighborhood obviously has changed over the course of time. Bernie did go on to graduate from Hofstra. He left the nest, as did Sandra and Peter. Ralph sold the house in 1965 and moved into a new luxury condo named Wyndham House out there in Lynbrook, Long Island, a couple of miles east. Now, Bernie Madoff, as I'm sure you know, I'll just go over the story briefly. A NASDAQ chairman and founder of a Wall Street firm, Bernie admitted the wealth management part of his business was a Ponzi scheme. It's a fraud. Didn't exist. And, you know, as the financial fraudster, as he was labeled, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison. Now, Ralph passed away in 1972 at the age of 64. Eventually, you know, like I mentioned, in Laurelton, as the neighborhood has changed, you know, in the 1970s, when the new neighbor that bought the home from the Madoffs, he eventually had to install bars on the windows of the house. And as you notice, the windows, the bars are still on these windows. We'll be approaching the house again. You could take a look. You know, a home like this in Laurelton probably will run you around, you know, 600 some odd thousand. You know, a lot of single-family home, 2-family homes near JFK, near the city, so it's a lot of convenience that you're paying for. And, you know, as I mentioned, the bars on the windows were installed, you know, back in the 70s. Kind of a sad omen of about how Bernie Madoff's later parts of his life would end up. Bernie Madoff has obviously since passed away, and two of his sons have actually passed away, which is a very sad story as well.